Hey, I'm Yassina Elfi, and for my research project, I'll be analyzing the short story Our Father by Julia Alvarez. My analytical approach is author biography and psychology. I'm looking at how Alvarez's own life shaped the story. Our Father was published in the literary journal Conjunctions in 2000. It features the Garcia sisters' characters Alvarez. Also wrote about in her novel about how the Garcia girls lost their accents. I chose the biography and psychology approach because Julia Alvarez's own family fled the Dominican Republic under the Trujillo dictatorship, and that history maps almost exactly onto the father character in this story. In this story, the adult Garcia sisters take their aging dying father on a nostalgic trip through Canada, retracing their sights of the larger-than-life stories he told them as children: his exile, his winter with 900 loggers, his rescue of a Cree chief wife. As the trip goes on, his stories keep contradicting themselves, and the sisters start to realize how much of their childhood safety was built on a father who turned frightening truths into fantastical tales. At one point, he's injured and briefly admits the world is ugly, but then he immediately goes right back into his myth making, and the daughters let him. The story actually ends with an image of pigeons in Central Park that had made it safely across oceans from all corners of the world, which echoes both childhood game with the messenger pigeons and the family-owned long migration. That brings me to my research question. How does Julia Alvarez's own family history of political exile under the Trujillo dictatorship shape her portrayal of the father-daughter relationship and the theme of protective storytelling in Our Father? From what I have learned, Alvarez's family fled the Dominican Republic in 1960 after her father joined an underground plot against the dictator Rafael Trujillo. They escaped just months before other members of the plot, including the Maribel sisters, were captured or killed. Alvarez had said this uprooting from her culture and country is actually the reason she started writing. I also found that critics know Dominican culture places a high value on storytelling, and that young Alvarez herself was often called upon to entertain guests, which mirrors the father's own storytelling habit in the story. And this isn't one-time connection. Alvarez keeps Alvarez keeps returning to a fictionalized version of her own family, the Gracias, across multiple books. So why does this matter? Knowing that Alvarez lived through this exact history changes the story for me. It's not just a quirky family portrait anymore. It becomes a meditation on how children survive political trauma. It reframes the father's exaggerations and lies as an act of love, not dishonesty, and a way of shielding his daughters from a truth that was too dangerous for them to carry as kids. And it explains why, as adults, the sisters choose to accept his myth making instead of exposing it. They understand now what it protected them from. That leads me to my working thesis, In Our Father. Alvarez draws on her family's real escape from the Trujillo dictatorship to portray a father whose exaggerated stories, however unreliable, function as a survival strategy, protecting his daughters from a childhood terror they could never have otherwise safely preceded. Thank you for listening to my research proposal.